Today, as we talk about, we compare ourselves with middle-income countries. Granted, sour. Let's look at that. But all these middle-income countries that we are comparing ourselves with them, their fuel is still way cheaper than Kenya, yet they are middle-income countries with better economies than our country. So if the question is, we have to look at our fuel as compared to others, then the price of those countries you're comparing us with clearly takes us out of the equation, because the taxation is expensive in Kenya today. But even while out that, we've talked about fuel reserves. We have a policy that clearly directs on Kenya on what it is supposed to do. But there is no political goodwill to set up these reserves. The reason why today we find ourselves with the G2G to stabilize the dollar, G2G to talk about supply, and not addressing the problem in the room, which is the cost. Therefore, Prof, the position where we find ourselves today is because there is no political goodwill to address the problems that we find ourselves in. Would you reckon?
Yeah, and this is a problem we know. It's not a problem that is hidden. I think it's a political rhetoric that is making us a fool. And somebody said very cleverly that fools are gone in Kenya. They no longer exist. Yep. What we have are people who are suffering, who know why they are suffering, and who know what needs to be done if that suffering is to be alleviated. They know. So there are no fools in Kenya. The big problem, and I would say this bluntly, the big problem with our republic from the onset is when we allowed the politician to be a business person. And therefore, to be two things at once, that you are the one regulating the state and you are the one allocating resources. And therefore, the wisest thing to do is to allocate opportunities and resources to yourself. And therefore, when you see the current oil crisis, the fuel crisis, it is the way it is because our political class has decided to do the most lucrative business in the world today, which is fuel.
Yeah.
The reason why Donald Trump is bombing Iran, why he bombed, Venezuela or invaded Venezuela, and why he's likely to invade other countries that have oil reserve is because you want to control petroleum as a main source of, wealth, and a very lucrative one at that. And therefore, in Kenya, look at the facade of the so-called G2G, government-to-government arrangements that have been talked about widely. We've said there is no G2G. There is G to private ownership in Kenya. Because if it was G2G, the petroleum reserve should be coming to the legally constituted mechanism of receiving our oil reserves and then distributing to the companies that are doing
KPC, for example.
So the national oil should be the one, plus whatever other mechanism we have within our constitution.
But I'm sorry, Prof. So what you're saying here is, for example, if fuel from one government, because G2G is government to government.
Yes.
Now, if fuel was coming in from one government, it would go